going on, party people? It's your friendly neighborhood youth pastor, and this is part one of a two-part video with the topic, Not So Typical Families Forgive Each Other. You ready? Here we go. For the last few videos, we've been talking about families. Some important families, some not so important families, but we've also been talking about our own families. And at least one family member in these Bible stories has messed up big time. We've shared stories of lies, deceit, jealousy, selfishness, and even murder. Sure, some of these families may seem extreme, but when you think about it, it's really not that different from our own families, because every family has a chance to give and receive forgiveness. And your atypical family could be even more atypical. We've all needed to be forgiven, or we've all needed to forgive family members. No family is perfect because families are made up of people and people are not perfect. In every family, people hurt each other. But in typical families, people respond with bitterness, anger, and revenge. Atypical families hurt each other too, but instead of pursuing revenge, they extend forgiveness. We've been saying that there's no family that God can't use. Your family could be used to do atypical things. But how? So you guys know, I'm married, I have a beautiful wife, her name is Michelle. We're both very passionate, and so that means from time to time, actually a lot, we argue. And so we were having an argument, we're going back and forth, and I was being rude and something like that, and Michelle said something, and that thing really hurt me. And it took me some time to get over it. And obviously I ended up forgiving her, she forgave me for being rude, but it was something that took me a while to get over. And like I said, I was being rude too, so it wasn't just one-sided. Obviously, I forgave her, she forgave me, she forgives me a lot for the things that I do. At some point, we all need to forgive or be forgiven by our families. Sometimes forgiving our family members is easy, but when a person has deeply hurt us, forgiveness can be much more difficult. Typical families let their hurts go unresolved until it leads to bitterness, anger, or even revenge. But atypical families pursue forgiveness. Atypical families know that their relationships are too valuable to lose. Hey, where'd I get this Bible from? So we're going to check out Genesis 37, 1-10. I also want to tell you guys to look at the Bible Project. They have some really cool videos, and they have a summary of the book of Genesis that's really helpful. But we're going to look at Genesis chapter 37, 1-10. Jacob lived in a land where his father had stayed, in the land of Canaan. This is the account of Jacob's family line. Joseph, a young man of 17, was tending his flocks with his brothers, the sons of Bilhah and the sons of Zilpah, his father's wives, and he brought their father a bad report about them. Now Israel loved Joseph more than any of his other sons, because he had been born to him in his old age, and he made an ornate robe for him, a robe of many colors. When his brothers saw that their father loved him more than any of them, they hated him and could not speak a kind word to him. Already tension, recipe for disaster. Joseph had a dream, and when he told it to his brothers, they hated him all the more. He said to them, "Listen to this dream I had. We were binding sheaves of grain out in the field, and suddenly my sheaf rose and stood upright, while your sheaves gathered around mine and bowed down to it." His brothers said to him, "Do you intend to reign over us? Will you actually rule us?" And they hated him all the more because of his dream and what he had said. Then he had another dream, and he told it to his brothers. "Listen," he said, "I had another dream, and this time the sun and the moon and 11 stars were bowing down to me." When he told his father as well as his brothers, his father rebuked him and said, "What is this dream you had? Will your mother and I and your brothers actually come and bow down to the ground before you?" His brothers were jealous of him, but his father kept the matter in mind. We'll stop there for now. So yeah, as you guys can see, Joseph is his father's favorite, and it's clear, and he isn't quiet about it. He decides to tell his brother about these dreams. Obviously, his brothers didn't like hearing the dreams, but Joseph wasn't really innocent. He was a little obnoxious, he was a little arrogant, so, he's putting fuel into the fire as well. One day, his brothers are working out in the fields. Out comes Joseph, and he's wearing his jacket, the robe that his father gave to him, while his brothers are out slaving in the field, right? So it's obvious that he's not coming to help. It's more like he's coming to gloat. Long story short, they come up with a plan. They're going to sell their brother Joseph into slavery to get rid of him. Then they're going to lie and say that an animal, a wild animal, killed him. So they're going to take his robe, they're going to dip it in blood, they're going to bring it home, and they're going to say, hey, Dad, is this your son's? Because we found it and we think some animal did something to him. So clearly not, a lovey-dovey family story happening here. They're basically thinking, okay, well, what's going to come of this guy and his, status as ruling over us now, right? So these family dynamics have clearly gotten out of hand. In anger and jealousy, they throw Joseph into a well, they stage his death, and they sell him into slavery. I've had to forgive family members, but nothing as severe as that. I mean, Joseph wasn't innocent, but what his family did to him was really cruel. If you skip ahead to chapter 50, you see how the story ends. Long story short, Joseph gets sold into slavery, but then he rises up in Egypt to be the second in command. There's this long famine, and Joseph prevents the entire nation from starving, including his brothers who come to him to get grain. So then he reveals himself to his brothers. They're shocked that he's still alive and that now he's a ruler. They did end up bowing to him, and they bring his father, and everything seems to be okay. But then Joseph's father dies, and Joseph's brothers think that he's going to retaliate because of all this stuff that happened in the past. But look at what happens here. Hey, where did I get this Bible from? So we're going to look at Genesis chapter 50, and we're going to see how this story ends to see if Joseph ends up forgiving his brothers. All right, so Genesis chapter 15 to 21. When Joseph's brothers saw that their father was dead, they said, what if Joseph holds a grudge against us and pays us back for all the wrongs we did to him? So they sent word to Joseph saying, your father left these instructions before he died. This is what he said. This is what you are to say to Joseph. I ask you to forgive your brothers the sins and wrongs they committed in treating you so badly. Now please forgive the sins of the servants of the God of your father. When their message came to him, Joseph wept. His brothers then came and threw themselves down before him. We are your slaves, they said. But Joseph said to them, don't be afraid. Am I in the place of God? You intended to harm me, but God intended it for good, to accomplish what is now being done, the saving of many lives. So then, don't be afraid. I will provide for you and your children. And he reassured them and spoke kindly to them. Joseph had every reason to be angry with his brothers, but he chose forgiveness instead of bitterness. Our main point for today is that not typical families choose forgiveness. In our next video, we're going to look at how Jesus tells us that we should forgive other people. But for now, I want you to start thinking and praying about who in your family you need to forgive. The Lord bless you. The Lord keep you. The Lord make his face shine on you and be gracious to you. The Lord turn his face towards you and give you peace. See you next time.